Fellas, let's rock and roll here. Let's rock and roll. We're talking about the women's, and on the women's side, we ended off the men's with the most dominant forces on the men's side. We're going to begin the women's with the most dominant forces on the women's side. Turbo Tiffany Chapon, once again, a world champion. Earlier this year, won Sheffield. Now has just clinched another world title, and this was the most stacked 47s we've ever seen going into the World Championship. Leanne Lee had previously totaled 440.5, left today 427.5. Didn't have the day she wanted, still ended up on the podium nevertheless. But phenomenal that third place, bronze, is 427.5. Emily Pischer-Plante from Canada, 432.5. Again, her total came down. She came in with 436. Total came down, but got the silver medal in the head-to-head, the Battle of North America between Canada and US. We kind of suspected perhaps it come down to those two ladies battling for who would take silver. And then Tiffany Chapon cruising to 453. I mean, only missing her third bench, and that's just 2.5 kilos. Her squat, the progress on her squat going to 170.5. I mean, my goodness, as she developed a squat on her. And those days were her deadlift. 170 at one point was a trip for her. Mentally kept attempting 170, missing 170. She's hitting 177.5 now. She's hitting 175 for her second. She is well past those days. Cruise to 453. And Tiffany Chapon now afterwards is openly saying at Sheffield, I want to do a 10 times body weight. I think it's on the table. Whether it happens at Sheffield, I don't know. This isn't necessarily a Sheffield preview podcast, but it's interesting. It's exciting. One question I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, though. The Leanne Lee's total came down considerably from 440 to 427.5. And Emily's total came down. Not as considerably, but came down nevertheless, and I think she's hoping to PR. Both those ladies probably hoping to PR. Watching this, Turbo Tiff won again and won comfortably. But can those ladies press her in the future? Do we have some dogfights ahead of us, or is she just still far and away ahead of the other 47s? Eric, what's your impression?
I mean, the two other people on the podium almost bombed out. I think it's just really important to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I think Leanne Lee went 3 for 9. Only got 1 on the board for each discipline, which is pretty wild. And Amelie, she got 1 bench. So this is. I won't tangent before I actually answer your question. No, I don't think Tiffany Chapon is always going to be a runaway favorite. The potential is certainly there for the other lifters in this weight class, and several who weren't there, to be right on her heels. And man, for some of these smaller weight classes, especially the new bench press rule changes, now I'm going to do the tangent. I think this IPF Worlds was an example of what happens when rules are not well thought through, and the consequences that occur depending upon the skill level, the speed, and what is going on the platform. There were some flights at IPF Worlds where the jury was overturning either in the lifter's favor or taking away against the lifter way too many, in my opinion, of the attempts that should have been done. And I don't think it's because we don't have good referees. I think it's because the referees are being asked to do too many things simultaneously. The rules are ambiguous, and it is just not humanly possible to be able to look at someone's head, elbow depth, foot movement, and butt all simultaneously and expect that to be consistent. And then when you have the replay, who can't necessarily hear someone jump to command, and they only get 1, maybe 2 angles to check that, it's becoming like a necessity rather than, we should probably go to the replay in this unique instance. So do we want our sport to operate that way? Does it need to operate that way? I think we need to take a hard look in the mirror collectively as the powerlifting community and assess the viability of the current, especially the bench press rules, but also some others as well.
Hey, these rules aren't working out. Let's add another one. Maybe that'll clarify the situation. Maybe that's the problem. We're going rule on top of rule on top of rule. Hey, how many rules do you want to throw on here? Anyways, it's going to turn ugly. Matt, what are your thoughts here about the 47s?
Yeah, in terms of the rules, I mean, to your point, they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, and it's absurd. And so they would win a tremendous amount of public support and favor if they raised their hand and said, you know what, we got it wrong. They repeal the rule and they start it over. Because to Eric's point, it is too much to watch. It is too ambiguous. It's too subjective with depth. And these lighter lifters in these lighter sessions, particularly the women, more so than the guys, but the guys as well, literally get crucified on the altar of the bench press. That is really, really frustrating. So anyway, all credit to Tiffany Chapone, just an extraordinary performance. Everything you said, Ryan. I told Penna when I saw, I mean, hats off to them. They've got it sorted. They've got it figured out now. And that's why we're seeing these extraordinary performances. I think that she will be right on the cusp. I mean, I was just kind of playing around with some numbers. I don't know if she'll be quite there at a 470 kilo total at Sheffield, but I think she'll be knocking on the door. I think she'll be in the 460, mid 460 range, probably. I think that's a quantum leap to ask her to add another 17 kilos, given her body weight. But I mean, look, if anybody can do it, it's certainly her. And then to your point, to Eric's point with the other two ladies, Amelie and Leanne Lee, I mean, almost striking out to the tune of bombing both of them. The one good thing I'll say about Leanne is you total 427.5 on 3 attempts. And that's so you're right. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
You have to, I mean, if I'm looking at that through her eyes, I'm saying, okay, cool. Hit the podium at my first World Championships, had a horrible day in terms of my success rate. And I got to look glass half full. Walk away with a bronze medal, and I totaled 427.5 with 3 attempts. Imagine what I can do if I make 8 or 9 lifts. And I think we saw that at American Nationals where she did. She was able to connect. But now, presumably, look, she'll go back to American Nationals next year. And as you said, Brian, this is not a preview show for PA Nats next year, but she'll compete at PA Nats next year, presumably. Imagine Heather Connor will come back. We'll see a nice battle there. And if she's able to make another national team and connect some of these dots, I mean, she could, in theory, put pressure on Tiff. But I think Tiff has ascended now to a place where she would almost have to revert to making some errors and making some significant mistakes for these other ladies to challenge her. And I say that respectfully. So, but yeah, I mean, this was, an interesting session to watch. And Tiffany now is a 5-time IPF World Champion, joining the likes of Ilya Strick and join Namani. So just an extraordinary accomplishment for Tiff.
I think Leanne Lee could total a 550 and up next year. And put pressure on Tiff 450, thank you. And put pressure on Tiff. Look, if you revert back, get a little sloppy. Same with Emily. I think she could also go to 450. And this is literally 9.5 kilos we're talking. She's already hit 440.5. I think so. And on her worst day, bronze medal, 3 for 9, and 3 for 9 in a Worlds and a bronze medal. That's insane. That's crazy. But yeah, all 3 of those ladies are those are the strongest 47s we've ever seen at Worlds. I'm glad they were all there, and there's more to come from there. I actually think Turbo Tiff is not really in her own lane yet. I think those ladies just had an off day, but if you were to tell me, well, Ryan, Leanne Lee and Emily won't have as many issues at the national level, but world level due to these freaking rules, maybe it's always going to be like this. Okay, then I would say, you know what? You might be right, because Turbo Tiff's bench is so on the money, she won't be touched. It's not an issue for her. If it's always a 50-50 proposition for these other ladies, yeah, okay. Maybe we never get to see what we hope we could see. And again, I don't want to turn this into a big drag on about the bench rules. I don't think anyone's super happy about it.
The last thing I'll say is her squat, Tiff squat, is so prodigious that she would have been the fourth best squatter at 52. Unbelievable to squat 170.5 kilos, you know? And so now, look, when she goes to Sheffield, she'll be in a little bit bigger flight. Not that, you know, I mean, look, she can probably recover really quickly. These smaller ladies, they can train at a very fast pace and hit attempts at a very fast pace. But look, what are we talking about? Maybe she squats 172 and a half at Sheffield, 173 or something. So, yeah, anyway, she's amazing.
I think she's closer to a 4 times body weight squat than 3 times at this point, which is bonkers. I haven't done the math, but it's just like
70.5.
It's like 180 something. That's nuts. You know?
Yeah, she's currently at 3.64 times body weight, which is nuts.
Yeah, it's closer to 4 times body weight than 3. That's insane.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, she's a little monster. 52s. Megan Lee Smith of New Zealand taking an 486.5, breaking the world record, taking the world title, her first open world title. Phenomenal showing. It's a coronation I think most people saw coming. She's previously done as heavy as 490, but never at an international level. I think she might have been stitched over 52, not by much, but Megan Lee Smith has really leveled up. I'm super excited to see what she does in the future. I think 500 kilos is for sure on the table for her to be the first 52 to take it to 500. Plum Deckers, what can you say? She went for the world record. It's rare. Plum Deckers was 180 the world record on her second. Refresh my memory here, gentlemen. No, it wasn't.
No, she went for 183 on her third attempt.
Very, very rare that Plum goes for a world record in the squat at the World Championships and misses. Her missing that, I mean, was she going to catch Megan Lee? Probably not. She needed Megan Lee to miss all types. What would have been a better storyline viewing for myself as a commentator, Megan Lee missed her opener, had to retake that weight. So she set back, only moved up 5 kilos for her third. You know, the original plan for her was not open at this weight, only and leave 5 kilos up. So if Plum had hit the world record, I would have loved. I would have started, creating a little bit of hype, a little bit of suspense. I'm like, wow, what are we looking at here? Megan's not where she wants to be. Plum's having a day of her life. But as soon as that happened, if we're all honest, any hopes of, and especially after it actually happened to Plum on bench press, Mr. Opener had to retake that weight and only went up 2.5 from there. This is going to be the Megan Lee Smith. There was going to be no other upsets. Even if it seems unlikely of an upset, we'll talk about the 57s. We'll talk about, they happen. It's close enough. They happen. And Plum is world-class enough. She'll spring an upset if you're not having the best of days. Catherine Gagne of Canada, of course, grabbing that bronze medal. 455, very super close between these two ladies. Only 2.5 kilos separates them. Plum Deckers actually having the bigger deadlift by 2.5 kilos. But the 52s was fun. For Hannah Farid, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention her freaking deadlift. There seems to be no ceiling. She smokes 220.5 as a 52. I don't know how big of a deadlift she's got. If her subtotal rises, she's in the top 5 with the biggest deadlift in the freaking division. If her subtotal rises, they just got to throw some kilos on there. She should be pulling onto the podium at some point. Her deadlift is monstrous. Let's see what happens. But only time will tell. But yeah, phenomenal pulling by her. I don't know where the end is in sight for her, but it's nowhere to be found. And also hats off to Liz Craven, who in her 50s ended up in the top 5 with a 425 kilo total. And by the way, in her 50s, hit a PR. Yeah. That was a PR. That's the best possible performance she's ever done in her 50s. Kind sirs. It's inspirational. It's phenomenal. And if you follow her online, some of the health issues she dealt with could have easily taken her straight up out of the game. And here she is, refusing to go away. She said it's the last time she's going to be in the open and she's going to chase Master Worlds. God bless those ladies at Master Worlds. But I would love to see her continue in the open. I love these kind of 50-year-olds swinging in the open. In 8th, she could make prime time. 8th, she could make prime time. I say, come back, go prime time and be in the 50s. I love it when I'm literally commentating in prime time and there's someone in their 50s. Beautiful. I love that story. But whatever, she's going to do whatever she wants to do. Hopefully she listens to podcasts and I can persuade her. But Eric, what are your thoughts on the 52s, kind sir?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up Liz Craven. I was gonna make that. I love Liz. I know Liz, and she's awesome. And it's so cool to see that she is actually she's not good for her 50. She's at her best that she has ever been at this.
Yeah.
Right? Like let's be clear. So this is just something for people to remember. So I think that's awesome. This is pretty much went, I think, the way we thought it would go in terms of our predictions for the podium. But I think, did Megan Lee Smith's last poll, was that for a 500 kilo total? It would have been if she got it.
No, it would have.
No,
not quite. It would have given her 491 and a half. But
never mind. Yeah, but she's definitely creeping up on that, and I think that is definitely within reach. It'll happen soonish. And we were previously talking about that being something that Evie Corrigan could do. And obviously we'll talk about Evie in the next weight class. But it's pretty cool to see Megan Lee Smith on the rise and still on a pretty steep slope. So I'm excited to see her future. And she is definitely carrying the torch now. And I was actually going to mention as well that Farhana Farid, I want to say when she was first starting to set these world records, she was in like 12th and 10th and 8th, and now I think her subtotal has come up. It's not just her chipping away.
It is, yeah.
It's not just her chipping away literally at her own deadlift world record. It's also that her subtotal is coming up, and I think if she stays on this trajectory, she is probably going to start being more like Enna is in the 83s, where he is a podium threat with his deadlift, and if he can cover the spread on the subtotal, like you were saying, Ryan, that she's going to become not just, let's see what's a crazy deadlift she can do, but oh shoot, like that third deadlift has got everyone going, oh shit, like is my podium spot in threat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. And also I'll say, in terms of before I throw it to Matt, in terms of attempt selection, the Canadians doing a good job here. In terms of the last deadlift, they were the lighter lifter, and threatened Plune, to your point, Matt, force her to come out. Even if it was just a 2.5 kilos, right. They did the exact appropriate third attempt, force her to come back out. And Garrett Bentley and Bryce Krawcheck, phenomenal. And they Canada's usually appear on point, but they did a great job there. So they're either going to get silver or bronze, as it were. And it turns out Plune rose to the occasion, and it was bronze, but perfect. Got everything they could out the lifter and a potential for silver. Any other day could have went that way as well. Matt, is there anything you want to add there, sir?
I don't recall what Catherine missed her second squat for. Do you recall, Ryan? Because they took it on their third and they made it. So had Catherine made that second squat, presumably they go up for the third and she connects the dots. Hey, we're looking at different potentially Plunes in third, and they're in second. So anyway,
the only thing is true, but if she missed again, fourth is only ended up 5 kilos off too. So it's one of those like. It's tough.
Yeah, no. I'm not insinuating that they should have added. I was just wondering.
You're wondering, yeah. Was it a technical?
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I know. I'm not sure, but always and I'm not always against moving up if you're like in a fight like this, but it's freaking to blow up in your face. Right?
Here's where I think we can differentiate. I think if you miss your opener on a one-off weird technicality or something like that, you pretty much have got to go up to either to your second attempt or circa the second attempt to stay in the fight. If you miss your second one, you're probably better off repeating it. Or if you go up, you're only going up a little bit.
Right.
Because to your point, Ryan, if you miss the third one, now you've lost a significant amount of kilos.
You're gone.
So no, I wasn't crapping on Garrett and Bryce. I mean, they did a really good job here. I was just wondering what she missed on.
Fair question. I don't recall, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, because had she made the second one, is what I'm saying, and then she had gone up to presumably whatever they had on the card for her third, then maybe she's taken second and Plune's, the Plune's in third. But anyway, a masterful performance by Megan Lee Smith. If we add together the attempts that Megan missed, she's right there knocking on that 500 kilo door. So to Eric's point, it's in the cards. I don't think it's a question of if, it's just a matter of when.
Okay, let me do this. We're going to move to the 57s, but before I do, if you guys heard that podcast, she came on the KOTL White Lights podcast, and she straight up said, a lot of me wants to move down to 47 because she walks around to 52. She doesn't cut. That's what she said anyways. And she said, a lot of me wants to go down to 47. When I hear Turbo Tiff say, I want to do 10 times body weight, I want to be the one that goes down and stops her. And like, obviously you can't actually stop her from achieving it, but taking out, like, sure, you hit 10 times, but I'm going to do 10 times plus. So no one's going to talk about you. They're going to talk about me. I'm going to take all your, and I was like, oh man, this is good for Sheffield if she does it, because right now Turbo Tiff is the darling of powerlifting. Won Sheffield, took another title, and is flying so high. And Megan's raising her hand, going, "I'll be the bad girl here in this storyline if you need one. Do you need a villain? There, you're wearing the white hat, I'm wearing the black hat. Sure, I'll drop down." And she's talking like that. She's like, why? Well, I just heard that was her goal and I want to stop her from achieving it. That is like the heel in pro wrestling. Not like, wouldn't it be nice if you did 10 times? Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, that's cool, but I want to stop you, huh? Can I put my thumb in your eye? How's that sound? Like, it's like, oh man, the sound bites, the videos, the debate, and when they're on the day of going tit for tat on squats, and it would be phenomenal. So I hope she does it. I freaking guarantee you it would be sensational viewing. But we'll put a pin in that one and wait for Sheffield and see if she ends up doing it. Moving on to the 57s, and I'm not going to say a whole heck of a lot about the 57s. I'm going to throw this one straight away to Matt Gary, because what are we dealing with here, Matt? This is Great Britain's finest hour, huh?
So last year, Ryan, Team GB, we made 6 of 15 third deadlifts. And so Peach and I, when we did our debrief last year, we missed on a lot of opportunities. We didn't capitalize. And so Joy Damani comes to mind. Had Joy made her third deadlift last year in this same battle against Serenaldi, Joy missed her final pull and it put her in bronze. Had she made that and taken the gold medal last year, that would have moved Team GB, the ladies, from 5th to 2nd.
Holy
right?
shit.
That's how tight the grouping was for 2nd through 5th place last year in the team points situation. So we were treated to a rematch this year. And I had harped on this throughout this prep in my messaging to the team that we have got to make third pulls, have to make third deadlifts. It is the most significant and critical lift of the meet. It determines your total, it determines placing, it determines team points, it determines pretty much everything. And it is your final opportunity to score points. And so this year, we made 9 out of 16. So we increased, we got better. We made 3 more deadlifts than we made last year. And as you can see, the results really changed. And so Joy Namani, I mean, what can you say about her? She's done 10 world championships. And this is her 5th world title. She's batting 500. It's extraordinary. It's just not, you can't say enough good things about her and her legend and her legacy, if you will. And she's still competing. She's a living legend in British powerlifting. The 2 lifts that Joy missed, she missed her 3rd squat. And it wasn't a bad number. I think she got called for her elbows supporting on the thighs. I think it was a technicality, and that's what they called her on. It wasn't depth. So we lost out on 5 kilos there, but Will Brown called a perfect game, and she was able to connect on all 3 benches. She missed her opening deadlift on a minor technicality because I think she kind of bobbled at the top, and there was that weird, awkward moment. But hey, they said, what the heck, we're going up to 235 anyway, which of course, I mean, that was a great call, and it was the only call, and it was an obvious call to make when you've got the best deadlifter on the planet that we've ever seen at this weight class, and arguably at some other weight classes, is just extraordinary, that weapon that she has. And so, just competing with Sarah Naldi. I mean, Sarah made all 3 squats, missed a bench, but then curiously missed her 2nd and 3rd deadlift. And so, Sarah's got I think her PB in the deadlift is 227.5. So 210, not necessarily too heavy of a deadlift opener, but they go to 220 and they wound up missing it twice. And that was, that obviously the door swung wide open for Joy. And when you've got somebody like Joy, oh, Eric, you wanted to say something?
I just want to say, if I recall correctly, her deadlift second attempt passed and the jury overturned it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is a pivotal.
I mean, it was shoulders forward. And I think in the moment I was like, what happened? And then when I saw the replay, I was like, oh yeah, it was borderline though, man. Yeah.
And that changed everything for her.
It did, because it would have taken her, I mean, that extra 10 kilos would have taken her to a 528.5 kilo total, which if I'm not mistaken, is just a stitch below the world record, which is 530.5. So neither of these ladies were able to hit the world record. You know, again, we talk about it. I've said it before. I sound like a broken record. Capability, probability. What are the women capable of? What's probable at a world championships with all of these factors and different variables? And so, yeah, smart of them, obviously, to repeat it. And had she made that, that would have put her on 527.5. I don't know, respectfully, that Joy had another, 10 kilos on that third pull. Probably not. I actually asked Joy privately, and I said, hey, what did you think you had on that third pull? And she kind of said to me, I don't even remember it, quite honestly. I was so caught up in the moment. So Fair. I told her that I thought she probably had another 5. Don't know if she had another 10, but who knows? Maybe, I mean, it's Joy Damani, for crying out loud. Maybe, on a third of deadlift for all the marbles and, et cetera, the adrenaline, maybe she would have got it. But anyway, the story is Joy Damani versus Sarah Naldi, with all due respect to the other ladies. And then a really cool fight that I was a part of, because I was coaching Bobby Butters. Evie Corrigan returns to the 57 kilo class after her much celebrated stint at 52. She comes back to the class that she'd been at before, and we're thinking, what can Evie do? Is she going to be circa that 500 kilo total? And Evie did Evie things, right? It is like Evie to go out and execute at a high level. It is like her to make all 9 lifts, and she's got that deadlift weapon at the end. Bobby, look, but this is Bobby's last meet as a 57. She's made that very clear. She wanted to push the envelope. We pushed hard. She hit PBs across the board. The only lift that wasn't a PB, I believe, was her bench press. But aside from that, these were all bodyweight PBs. She was able to hit that 500, kind of landmark total, if you will, and kind of check that box. And it was just Evie Corrigan just kind of waiting there, with the final deadlift, was actually able to tie us and eclipse us on body weight. But Bobby, being the delightful human being that she is, was not at all upset, was genuinely happy for Evie, that she was the stronger lifter on the day. And again, respectfully to Bobby, Evie probably had a few more kilos in that deadlift. So even if we had pushed and gone to a 200 kilo deadlift, which Bobby probably didn't have, Evie had a little bit more as well. And then in 5th place, you had Sauvan Pal from France, who had a couple key misses, her third squat and her third bench, and that kind of put her just 5 kilos back there. But that was kind of the story, and that race for that third podium spot was between Pal, Bobby Butters, and Evie. And just it was exciting to be a part of it. And all of these ladies are just, it's delightful to be around Bobby and Evie, and of course Joy taking the W and just doing Joy things. So that was an exciting session.
Okay, I got a question about the Sarah Naldi thing, but real quick, Evie being a world champion, a weight class below, returning to the world championships a year later and podiuming is a crazy turnaround. That's real quick to all of a sudden try moving up a weight class and still podiuming, being world class. Like Evie's, a special talent, obviously, but hats off to her to be able to pull that off and have friction doing it. I mean, she's got Bobby Butters, who was self-podium European champion, multiple-time European champion, multiple-time world's medalist. It wasn't like it was a clear pathway and she was uncontested to get onto that podium. It was a tough, and Pal as well, reigning European champ. Tough opposition for her to get onto that podium. So hats off to Evie to successfully move up a weight class and still be world-class competitive and end up on the podium and hitting that nice round 500, no less. Like to see it. In terms of Sarah Naldi, is there a reason why they did not take a chip on that third deadlift that was a world record?
Or you mean the third squat?
Third squat, sorry.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing to me. I don't know why you don't look. If you have the opportunity, I don't care if you're the lighter lifter, you leverage every advantage that you possibly have. right? And that's one of the distinct advantages is being able to chip a world record. And when you can, I don't know why you bypass that. And so the world record had previously been, I'm looking it up right now, it had previously been 198. And so that gives you a lot of options. And if you think she's got a 200 kilo squat, then take 200.5 or 201 or whatever, but put a chip on it, to your point, Ryan, and force other people. I mean, Joy's going to be able to chip you back in the deadlift, but still, you want to take advantage of that opportunity. Yeah.
And also be like, if she's like, well, head to head with Joy, you don't know what Evie's going to do. You don't know, like, you're really getting ahead of yourself if you're told, like, I know exactly how this is going to play and it won't matter because we're lighter and they got a chip, so it won't matter. You don't know all that. Just grab the freaking chip just in case.
100%. Got to take it. Yep.
They did this last year, by the way. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves, they didn't take a chip on one of the squats where I'm like, I don't know the exact scenarios there, but.
Yeah, it's curious if people are paying attention to that, or I don't know. I don't know how you come in not, obviously armed with that ammunition. I mean, you're the record holder to begin with. So, yeah.
Eric, we covered a lot here.
Only one minor thing to add. It's just that the whole women's division is leveling up. Like 400 kilos has become the standard in just a couple years, from going from you will probably win the world title to now the top 5 are totaling over 400 in the 47 kilo class. We're seeing the same thing with 500 kilos now in the 57s, which is mind blowing. So yeah, I'm not at all surprised by Evie's performance. She was a 57, came down and basically regained, and then got back to where she was. So, she's basically the biggest, leanest version of herself that she could have been while still making 52. And then her body finally gets a breath of fresh air, probably mentally too. And then boom, 500. So I think Evie's a legit contender, and it hasn't been enough time for her to show us what she's really capable of. And to Matt's point, she might have had a little bit left, but she was securing that bronze. So I'm actually really curious to see what this class looks like, because I think she's going to be threatening for the top 2 spots.
Okay. For sure. I mean, she could definitely throw in more kilos. She's just getting going. And she had more on the day. Is she 17 and a half kilos behind those other girls? Probably not. She stopped at 500 to secure the bronze. Can she cover that gap? I think so. But anyways.
And also one last thing, and I got to say it. I'm sorry. And I keep doing this with the rules, but they piss me off. The spirit and actually the written rules on almost every infraction say basically tie goes to the runner, right? If you're not sure, give it to the lifter. And the idea of and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the elbows touching the thighs, it's not if they contact, if it's you believe they actually provided meaningful support to help the squat. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how you could watch Joy's squat and think that she somehow used her elbows to assist her squat just because the sides brushed it maybe from some angles. And I consistently see these calls where certain referees, or maybe the jury, seems to err on the side of tie goes to let's take it away rather than give it to them. And I think this is a great example that had me quite annoyed when I saw that third squat call. But anyway,
yeah, I do think sometimes people like, I saw it touch, so let's just, where it's like, man, it's not just, I agree. Yeah, too often people are intervening, and she ended up winning anyways, but I gotcha. All right, moving on to the 63s. Eric, try to keep your shit together, but Elba Bostrom impacted heavily in the bench press. Mm-hmm. She greatly lowered her opener, which was obviously a good idea, anticipating that it was going to be some turbulence on this flight, and it was. Mr. Opener moved up 2.5 kilos, hit that, moved up another 2.5, missed. This is the type of weight that she would manhandle and could have manhandled, and literally had to change her entire way of benching on the day. She usually opens way heavier, finishes way more, and this unfortunately greatly impacted her. Now, to her benefit, or to her fortune, Chiara Bernardi was not in top flight mode, coming in injured. So she leaves with 2.5. Bernardi can squat more than that. Her bench impacted not as much as Elba's, but again, and then the deadlifts, when she came out and she wasn't pulling sumo, she was pulling conventional. And she's got it decent enough. At Sheffield, she pulled 215. Today, she had to settle for 200. But if she had the 215, like she's still a threat, considering like she's a bit of a switch hitter, not quite like Ashton, but a bit of a switch hitter. That saved her, good enough for silver. All that being said, the bench rules greatly impacting Elba. Her weight or her total came down from 580s to now 569. However, talking to Elba, she's saying she's not overly concerned. She adjusted before. She's extremely confident, positive person. And she believes she's going to rebound and grab those kilos back. But Alba Ballstrom, 3 for 3 in bench, 3 for 3 in the deadlifts, actually took the world record in her final deadlift. That's something that she wanted to do. She always wanted that deadlift world record, so she took it. Really, the only blemish on her day is the bench press, and I don't think that was so much her, so much as the rules and whatever. We've gone into that. Chiara Bernardi, absolute heart of a lion, showing up injured again, still securing silver medal and trying to pull big. Her conventional wasn't quite where it was at Sheffield, and probably because the injury was a lot worse than it was back there too. And then we have ourselves a good old-fashioned Donnybrook, where Betty, right to the line, 5:15, both for Betty and Vidal of Great Britain, vying for that bronze medal. Britain damn near took another freaking podium. Damn near took another podium, Matt. However, the world record holder previous to Alba taking it in Betty gets to have that final say, and her deadlift is a monster and able to pull herself onto that podium and bump you guys down. But you came this freaking close, my friend. You came this freaking close to yet another medal for Team GB. What are your thoughts there, sir?
Yeah, if we're just to pick up where you left off. So interesting fun fact. Both Betty Abora and Makeda Vidal are coached by Alex Pearson-Jones. And so Alex Peach, literally probably shaved a few years off of his life here. From an ethical perspective, he did not coach Makeda because we felt like it was in his best interest to kind of be a cheerleader and sit on the sideline. And so we handed off the duties to Will Brown for that session, who did a masterful job. Look, Makeda hit PBs across the board. The only lift that she missed was her third bench, and that was only to the tune of 2.5 kilos. And it's just a situation here where you're going up against, Betty Abora previously, until, Alba took the deadlift record, was the deadlift world record holder. And so when you have somebody like that, they're just going to bide their time. They're just going to pace, just stack kilos and wait and see what you do, and then load up for the final one. And that's what she was able to do, right? She was able to just sit, wait her turn, and load up, the final deadlift and beat Makeda on body weight. And so, but both of those ladies, just absolutely phenomenal days, executing at a really high level. I won't add too much to the top two beyond what you said, Ryan. I will say this regarding Alba, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. She had benched 140 kilos at the past 3 competitions that she'd done leading into this one. And so for her to bench 117 and a half, that's 22 and a half kilos lost, which is a humongous chunk. But what do elite athletes do? They adapt, they overcome, they find a way to reinforce another part of their game, to the tune of, oh, by the way, my bench might be down because of the rules, but I'm going to up my ante in the deadlift and pull a world record. And so to her credit, she was able to pull a world record there and, mitigate a little bit of that gap. I mean, I think, respectfully, she's pretty much running her own race at this point in this weight class. Obviously, Chiara, if she had been healthy, it's a lot closer, different conversation. The attempts probably swing a little bit differently, but credit to Alba, man. Now she's a 2-time IPF World Champion, and for her to make up that kind of ground and do that well in the deadlift is really exciting to see, given the fact that she took such a hit on her bench press.
Yeah, you talk to Alba, and she is so she refuses to be like, oh, can you believe these calls? Can you believe these rules? Her attitude is I would not have reacted the same, but her attitude is like, they did this to me last year with the rules. I adjusted, my bench came back. These new rules, I haven't adjusted yet, but I think my bench will come back. I'll adapt. It is what it is. Where it's like, God bless. Like, she is so freaking positive and difficult. Like she's a world champ. You don't get here by accident. Go ahead, Eric.
It's not just positivity. I want to point out that this is actually a highly adaptive strategy that, again, going back to what I said in the men's episode, where you include things in your locus of control, you blame inward in all cases, even when sometimes it's not something that you can control. Because if you do give the power to the rules, something you have no agency over changing, I mean, sure, yeah, like there's one thing about like that sucks. I'm mad in the moment, but as soon as you can reorient towards, well, I can adapt to this, and you take responsibility for your own bench, you give the power to yourself. Yep. And I understand the temptation, the immediate gratification of saying, no, that was out of my control. And many athletes are human. In fact, I think they all are, even though we see these crazy performances that seem superhuman. I haven't checked, but I haven't done blood testing. But no, like in all seriousness, it is a common trait among high-level, consistent, high-level performing athletes in well-developed sports that they include even more than is reasonable or logical within their locus of control. When they get hurt, they go, what could I have done differently, even if it was a freak accident? When a ridiculous bench rule changes and they lose 20 keys off their bench, they go, no, that's not their problem. I got that, because it gives them the agency to overcome it in the future. And it is the athletes who blame outward who need to have quite the genetic talent or be in an underdeveloped sport to where they can basically maintain an attitude which is facilitative to worse performance and still be at that level. So huge kudos to her. And I will point out that she has got the second best lifter with GL points around 124. Tiffany Chapone got 126, just 2 points higher. Add 20 kilos onto her bench and think about how much of a dominant performance she would have had as far as best lifter.
Yeah. Now that might piss her off. I want to be a fly on the wall when she hears this podcast. She's like, what the fuck? Is that right? She's all of a sudden,
screw
it's nice.
The IPF.
Yeah, fuck these guys. But no, well said. And also, I want to see Kiara back to being 100%. Hang on the sidelines for a hot minute. Come back freaking 100%, because she's young as shit and she could press. She'll be able to press Elba if she's 100. She pressed her last year. She'll be able to press if she's 100%. Kiara is going through a moment here, but she is freaking top level. We haven't seen the best I guarantee you she's 100 in the next few years. Her and Alba could be swapping this title back and forth. And Alba said so herself. She's like, I'm not taking my foot off the gas here. I'm looking behind me. Kiara wasn't 100%, but when she is, it's going to be neck and neck body weight, winning on body weight type deals. All right, fellas. How about let's move on to the 69s, and what are you going to say about the front runner in terms of Team Italy? The other ladies, and Italy's got some phenomenal lifting on the ladies' side. The other ladies weren't getting it done, but you could count on old Carola Gara, who first won her world title in 2019, 2026, grabbing another world title, champion in and out of equipment, world games in and out of equipment, literally a future Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Came into this the favorite, for sure the favorite, and ended off, 3 for 3 in squats, 3 for 3 in deadlifts. Bench, again, okay, it is what it is. Bench rattled her, and she ended up leaving with just her opener. But fairly dominant. Missed the 95% for Sheffield. If bench is on point, probably might have been different.
Still getting 120 good lift points.
120 good lift points.
The shadow of the Grim Reaper is long on this weight class.
Yeah. But Carola Gara did a fantastic job. Janae Kovacs, coming into this, she had mentioned that she probably wasn't going to be 100%, but she thought she was turning the corner. She got injured and then thought she had enough laneway to have turned the corner. She did. She did a great job. She was going to be up against it to beat Carola Gara anyways. Possibly an opportunity for an upset, but she needed to be more than 100%. She needed to be, I don't know exact math here, but like 105%. You're going to be Carola Gara. So she might have ended up where she needed to regardless, but squat came down. Bench was a stitch shaky. The lifts weren't all completely there, but good enough for silver in her very first world championship. showed a little bit of heart, tasted some adversity, had a couple gut check moments in prep, hopped online and was very forthright with it, saying, I hope I have enough laneway, and ended up, she did, taking the silver medal. And then Megan Scanlon and Ireland's Jordan Bright, toe-to-toe action here to get onto that podium. Megan Scanlon, the only lady to have podiumed in 3 different weight classes that she joins as Kimberly Walford. So only her and Kimberly Walford have podiumed in 3 different weight classes at the IPF World Championship. And these weight classes aren't like in boxing where it's a few pounds here and there. They're considerable jumps. Try that sometime. Talk about a freaking storied career for Megan Scanlon. I talked to her when she's on the podcast, and I was telling her, hey, it's got to be said, if you go up, and the discussion at the time was, do I do 63 or 69? I was telling her, if you go up and you pull this off, are you freaking kidding me? The likes of which you join, and now only her and Kimberly Walford, 3 different weight classes, they podiumed. She's a legend. She was a legend before this, but now she's really doubling down on her legend status. Phenomenal lifting all around by these ladies. Gara missing the Sheffield invite cutoff. We'll have to see. She could still get wild carded. But I don't think any crazy major shakeups. Janae Kovacs, Megan Scanlon was going to be a good one. It all depended on how the bench rules impacted. But if they're going to impact anybody, it was going to be more Megan Scanlon. This is a rematch, if you remember, from Avances. But Janae Kovacs, what we believe is leveling up, and is going to continue to level up. Eric, I'll throw it to you first. What are your thoughts on the 69s?
Even though, Carola Gara wasn't able to hit a total that was commensurate with, Agata Sitko's, like I said, long shadow on this weight class, it was still a really, really impressive class because of what she accomplished, what Megan Scanlon accomplished, and not to mention just how tight it was. And I actually want to ask Matt something, but if you look at the spread from 2nd to 9th, it's only 17 kilos. 565 took 2nd, and 9th, who is Andy Nelson from Great Britain, which is why I want to ask, was 547, and then it drops off like 30 keys. So I can't imagine how stressful, also with many, many very good deadlifters, by the way, what those last final moments of attempt selection changes were like in that class. Matt, were you coaching, or was that Peach for Annie?
It was Peach, because I was coaching Nathaniel Messiah at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would love to ask Peach, like, how many years off your life did you lose, and like trying to handle that, because it was wild to watch. There was so many jockeying for position, attempt changes, and probably I would think one of the tightest spreads we've seen among the top 10 in a long time. Yeah, it would have. I think their last pull there with Annie, they added 12.5 kilos. They went for 232.5, and that would have put her in 4th place, just off the podium. I mean, it was a big swing there. I mean, again, if Annie had been able to connect the dots on that 3rd bench press, they'd had 2.5 more, and it could have been a different story. But yeah, to your point, Eric, really tightly clustered there, man. It doesn't get much tighter than that, and a lot of good lifting, exciting to see. And look, Carola Gara, I mean, if not for Agata Sitko, she's probably the greatest of all time. I mean, this is her 4th IPF world title on the classic side, and she's won Equipped, she's won World Games, she's done it all. So she's often overshadowed by Agata, but she deserves her own flowers as well. And, unfortunate that she wasn't able to hit the Sheffield total, and that was probably largely due to not being able to, connect the dots on some of the benches there, but an exciting class nonetheless. To your point, Ryan, Megan Scanlon, just the legend that she is, making the podium again, and exciting to see her battling it out against another American. And this is round 2, and I'm sure we're going to be treated to rounds 3, 4, 5 later, because Meg likes to compete a lot, and Janae ain't going anywhere either. So the 69s were fun to watch.
All right, let's move on to the 76s, where Crane and Warford posting up 625.5, going 3 for 3 in the squats, taking the world record. Improvements for sure on her bench press, and then deadlifts taking it right up to 255. Cranen 9 for 9, clinching her first world title, looking absolutely sensational. Does a great job all around, and relatively smooth sailing for her. Didn't have to be overly pressed. If she was, I'm probably could have seen even, bigger thirds, but I think it was a good idea to go 9 for 9, especially at this World Championship. You never know how some of these calls are going to go. She wasn't 100% in prep. By the time it rolled around, she was confident. She's like, I'm there in the bouts where I was at U.S. Nationals when I asked her and I'd seen her. And I mean, what was it? 3 kilos, exactly that. Like, to be within 3 kilos of judgment, not bad. They were going to try to do around there without overly pressing and re-aggravating any kind of injury. So the fact they got a 625.5 out of her, perfect. It was enough that Susanna Mazur, who we have to talk about, holy shit, this kid's 20. Holy shit. It was enough that Susanna Mazur was convinced we're going for silver. Hey, let's just have a great day. Let's just do our thing. She's out of reach. And so God bless. Cranen was 100% like that. I can't wait until Sheffield when Cranen is been at 100% and we'll try to threaten Agatha Shitgo's best 76 kilo class, which is 735. 635. I can't wait until we see that. Agatha during the week had posted up a cheeky SBD inner gym. I mean, it's not the same. Playing close to the same. You can't do a gym total compared to IPF Worlds. However, in the 730s. So Cranen is probably telling herself
630s.
630. Jeez, I keep saying this. Yeah. But Cranen is probably telling herself, look I could probably do that. Sheffield, she could probably take the unofficial world record from Agatha. It's on the table anyways. So, and you do that. Well, look at how much credit we put on Agatha. Agatha's phenomenal. If she really just kicks that ball down the field and takes Agatha Shitgo's unofficial world record of 635, my God, everybody should give her super duper high praise and then wait with bated breath as the aforementioned Agatha returns to battle. Because Agatha Shitgo versus Cranen Warford, I'm telling you, in terms of special athlete, Warford, special athlete, Agatha. Warford's been doing this 3 years and she's got 3 world's medals. Like, do the math. What the hell? It's like she stepped onto first base, like already world class. That's how special she is. And then you got Agatha Shitgo, who is probably the only lady in the world for powerlifting that could be like, I'm unimpressed. Let's see what happens. You tell me these two ladies are going head to head, I'll buy the pay-per-view. I'm telling you that right now. It might be the best possible showdown where I don't know what the hell's going to happen. We got, and I'm excited. But anyways, returning back to World's action, Zuzana Mazur from Poland, these freaking Polish 76s. I hear about a 20-year-old Polish lifter. I'm freaking, my ears are perking up like, tell me more, because we seen Agatha at 20 years old pressing. I don't got to tell you, Eric, probably took years off your life in your day, but 3 for 3 in bench, 3 for 3 in squat, 3 for 3 in bench, and then ultimately only failed her final deadlift. Had nothing to lose. What the hell, load up and let's see how far you could push it. But Zuzana Mazur, I seen her in the back right afterwards, and she told me, give me a year. Well, guess what, Susanna? You got till Sheffield, because you're going to Sheffield, and at 20 years old, with the progress a 20-year-old can make, God knows, there's a gap to bridge for sure. But even if she doesn't full on catch Cranen, I'm excited just to see where she ends up. Because when Poland returns with Agatha, and they got Susanna in there as well, and you add Cranen, next year's World Championships, this is a 3-way head-to-head. Susanna is an absolute monster. The poise she showed, the whole 9. I mean, you would not have been able to tell that she was at the World Championships contending with all the hype that was on her. She did phenomenally. I was super duper impressed. And then, of course, Britain Mara coming in with the bronze medal, 587.5. It was fun to watch all around. The 76s, I believe, produced
Germany.
Germany. Did I not say Germany?
You said Britain.
I think you said.
Okay, well, I got Britain on the mind. Sorry, Matt. But yeah, it was a fun showing. Eric, what are your thoughts about the 76s?
This class, for those who don't know, it's a relatively recent addition to the weight classes. When they created the 69, the 76, and they got rid of the 72s. And the couple things. So one, I just based upon the way the social media content was going from Cranon, I was like, I think she's in a good enough spot that she knows she's going to come right by the competition, and she's starting to build that storyline. That may not be the case. Obviously, Ryan, you talked to her, but I had the impression that I was like, I think she's going to be pretty close to fully recovering. I think she's going to do really well. Really glad to see that was the case. We all wanted to see her come to the international stage, crush it, and really put up an awesome total, which she did. I think the big surprise, more so to me, was just actually they're not even just Susanna Mazur, because she kind of came out of the woodworks as a young person, but this whole class was full of people. Like when you were listening to the live commentary, which you guys did, talking about people hitting PBs, leveling up, moving forward. The top 9 doesn't have a single person over the age of 28, right? So these people are all leveling up quickly and seeing relatively steep climbs in their performances year on year. And if we think about, you were mentioning when I was losing some hair, the title win, which Jess Bittner got over a not fully peaked Agata Sitka, was 585, and 575 was what got you 5th, and that's Clara Perrault, and that was a big improvement on her total, right? So this class is leveling up, and not everyone's here. So I'm really excited to see what we're looking at in this class just in a couple of years. Like it'll be a completely different ball game. So no, it was a really enjoyable class to watch for sure, and just a lot of class lifting for sure.
Because you took it there, you said like the weight class isn't. It's the newest weight class, and who was the first?
It was just
world champion. Yeah, you bet your ass. It was Jessica Bittner.
Yeah.
That was a layup. That was a layup, Matt. You jumped in. Come on, Matt.
Sorry.
I was kicking that to Eric Helms. Matt jumps. Matt, the trivia king, jumps. That was Jessica Bittner in 2021. But yes, Jessica Bittner, who obviously won a couple world titles in her day. Matt, also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the Canadian here, breaking the world record in her second attempt and then loading up 275. The word on her was, watch out when it comes to deadlifts, and that was no lie. Holy freaking smokes, can she pull? She hasn't competed a lot. She's been around for a few years, but there's not a lot of data points on her. But I'm curious, like, what the hell is she going to end up doing with a deadlift like that they loaded up 275? Again, to your point, Eric, to slay, I got the shit going 2022. Jess had to pull like 261-ish or whatever to like which at the time was the biggest deadlift in all the women's powerlifting. So that's why it was like such a crazy, holy shit, Jess, they're going to make you, it's what she had to do. But now we have ladies loading up 275 like this. It's freaking remarkable. Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll just add briefly. I won't talk too much. Yeah, the moment with Canada for us, I mean, she was only at a 312.5 kilo subtotal, right? Because if you look at her bench press is significantly behind her counterparts there, and so she's sitting on a 312.5. And I noticed that I think they originally had a 235 kilo. Garrett Bentley had a 235 kilo deadlift opener for her, and I looked across the room and I was like, what is she doing taking her opener in the warm up room? And I was like, oh man, they're getting ready to pull the okie doke on us. They're getting ready to change her opener because she picked up 235, and I thought she was going to snatch it above her head. They immediately run over, and I'm looking at Peach. I'm like, yeah, that number's going way up. And so I think I walked out and told Garrett Bentley, I said, yeah, Ray Charles could have seen that coming after the 235 last warm-up. So anyway, to her credit, just an extraordinary deadlifter. She made up a tremendous amount of ground to the tune of coming in 4th place. So well played by Canada. It was fun to see Bettina Hanlon from Great Britain, Clara Perrault, and Mara Hames duke it out yet again. They all weighed identical body weights at Euros, with Mara winning Euros, and then Mara claiming once again the bronze medal position. So kind of winning the rematch, if you will. But that was exciting to see. Bettina Hanlon had a really good day on the GB side, hit a PB squat, made 2 benches. And then, of course, we loaded up, or Peach loaded her up for that last pull. It was the only number to take, really, quite frankly, because it would have put her onto the podium. So well played by Peach, but it was just a stitch too heavy for Bettina, but still a PB total. And yeah, the last thing I'll just add, it's really cool to see Cranen's ascension, right? Because if we look back 3 years ago, she came on board in Lithuania when I was coach of the U.S. team, and I believe she totaled about, 585, and then she comes back to Worlds in Germany, totals 595, and she moves up podium placing to second. And now, of course, this year she moves up into the gold medal position with a monstrous 625.5 kilo total win. So when we talk about athlete growth and development, it's just really cool to see her growth and development, and thereby her ascension, climbing the podium to world championship form. And so nice to see her go 9 for 9. Nice to see her healthy, or healthy-ish, or healthy enough, clearly back to nationals form. And will be exciting to see what she can do at Sheffield, and of course moving forward.
And also Rondell Hunt handling his wife, Kezia Hunt. And my man, I told Rondell, she missed her opener. You went up anyway. She missed her second attempt.
Yeah.
She's not vying for a podium here, my man. What was with the aggressive attempt selection in the squats? I'm like, if she bombed out, do you realize? And he goes, Rondell lifted the very next day. The very next day. And he said, man.
That's hard to do.
He said, yes. I was so stressed out, I didn't even sleep. It was the night before he competed. He goes, I didn't sleep last night because I was so freaking stressed out about handling my wife. And it ended up all's well that ends well. And it ended up being a good day for her. But he was like, I didn't anticipate how worked up I would be and the emotions attached and whatever. And my God, when I was watching, and Kezia's like super nice. Like Rondell's obviously super nice too. So you're like hoping it all works out. But I saw him the next day, and she's handling him. I go, fuck, I hope you do a better job with him than he did with you. Jesus Christ, did you guys toe the line there for absolutely no reason? Why so aggressive, bro, on those attempt selections? I'm busting his chops. I'm joking around here, and he'd do a better job than I can handling at Worlds. But anyways, funny story. Moving on to the 84s, and Matt, I think I'm going to kick this one off to you. With this one.
Yeah, so we found out the night before at the technical meeting, the night before the championship started, that Amanda Lawrence wasn't going to come, and she'd put that on social media. And I think that came as a shock to us all. I had no idea that she was injured, but Amanda, it was announced at the technical meeting, and really classy. I just want to say a word about Amanda. I messaged her after the technical meeting, and I said, look, we just got word that you weren't coming to the championships. You will be missed, and I certainly hope that you recover and heal quickly and return to form. And Amanda said, look, it's not like me to skip meets. She's like, I tried my best, and this was, I just couldn't get it sorted and couldn't get it fixed, in time for the meet. So she had to drop out at the absolute last second. But knowing Amanda and the dog that she is and the fighter that she is, and given her resume, and I think what's on the horizon in terms of challenging, these lifters challenging her, I think she'll want to come back and plant her flag once again. But anyway, really classy of her. She also sent me a message and said, I'm cheering for Ziana. And that was really cool. And so this turned into a situation where presumably, in our preview podcast, Ryan, we were talking about, Carlina Tongatea ascending into the 84 kilo class, former IPF world champion, doing the same at World Games, just these string of extraordinary performances at 76 kilos. What can she do at 84? Kind of allowing her body weight to come up and not having to restrict herself. And I think one of the things that we talked about on the preview podcast that Rory was so astutely mentioned was, what are we going to see out of Carlina in the squats? She's had times at 76 where she struggled with depth, struggled to meet the standard. Is that trend going to continue when she moves up to 84, or is that additional body weight going to change her leverages in a positive manner. But as we saw at the championships, she was called on depth on her first squat. She and her coach Dom chose to repeat the attempt. She made it, and then she missed her third. And I think that clearly, really put Carlina in a bad spot to the tune of losing out on 12.5 kilos. And had she made her opener, then clearly that probably was even more kilos that she lost. And look, Carlina is a supreme squatter. She's one of the best. She had the world record, in the 76 kilo class. So she's a good squatter. And she squats very rapidly and has a very quick descent. And sometimes you think, hey, that plays to the athlete's favor, right? It's less time, literally, for the judges to kind of get their eyes on you. But then again, to Eric's point, the rules are written in a manner that we believe the tie goes to the runner. And sometimes, the tie doesn't go to the runner. And particularly when they have less time to look at it, they're probably even more critical of the lifter. And I think Carlina, if I'm not mistaken, like many lifters, like probably almost every lifter, has asymmetry in their hips, where one hip can be in and the other hip can be clearly high. And if the high hip is the one that's being shown on the replay to the jury table, then that doesn't bode well for you. But anyway, Carlina comes out with only one squat, is losing some kilos. Ziana made all three. And so, it's like game on. And so I think the question, again, on the preview podcast, Ryan, that you kind of posited to us is, will Carlina take that 628 total that she has and punch into the 630s, potentially the 640s, and be able to press Amanda? Obviously, Amanda wasn't there. And so, Ziana had the meet of her life. She went 8 for 9. She only missed her third bench press. And I remember walking out. I was coaching Josh and Goka during that session because the 84s were coupled with the 120s. And I just remember telling Ziana when she was walking out of the warm-up room, I just looked at her and gave her a fist bump. And I just said to her, I said, remember, you are the best deadlifter on the planet. And she looked at me and had a really big smile. And she said, yep, I know. And so that, I think, really, she exuded a lot of confidence. She was able to pull a world record there on her third attempt. Obviously didn't need it at the time, but had 270 kilos and frankly looked like she had 5 more. So I think, that was not a limit lift for Ziana, but just could not be any happier for her. She was overwhelmed with emotion. The British team kind of rushed her in the back. Really a cool moment for her because she's come in second a few times now, or 2 times at least, at the World Championships to Amanda. And so for her to be able to win her first IPF World Championships is just absolutely thrilling. Obviously for her individually, but collectively for the team, she scores us 12 points. A lot of us didn't necessarily have that on our bingo card. And I think also, we need to cut Carlina a little bit of slack here. I mean, Carlina clearly didn't have the meet that she wanted, but I talked to her afterwards and it's like, she had a glass half full approach. She's like, look, this is my first meet as an 84, and I'm still kind of getting used to being an 84 and used to these leverages and used to the change in position and all these things. So look, Carlina, it's well documented. She's got part of a lion. She ain't going anywhere. She'll be back. I have every confidence that she'll return to form, that she'll add on to this. And she was very gracious in defeat and congratulated Ziana. And also, look, Carlina's still not another silver medal that she can throw up on the mantle. And then, of course, we had USA's Nicolette Ziegler because the United States took 284s this year because Natalie Richards turned down her slot. And so Nicolette bursting onto the scene, first time at a World Championships, was able to total 590. I believe that was down a little bit from her PB total. I think she's about circa 600.
600.
But 600 kilo total. But nevertheless, lifted well, represented herself well, missed her deadlift opener, chose to repeat it, kind of had a little bit of a cushion and the ability to do so, and then missed her third one. I'm not sure if she incurred an injury there, but the deadlift was down significantly, but clearly enough to net a 590 kilo total. And that kind of rounded out the podium. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jess Bittner, had her on my fantasy team. Really odd call there for Jess Bittner to get called on elbow depth again.
Thank you.
My goodness.
I was like, if Matt doesn't cover this, I'm going to go off.
You've got one of the world's greatest deadlifters with arms that stretch from here to Saskatchewan, and she's, and she gets called on elbow depth on her third one. That was a mystery to me. I don't know how that happened. Interesting to see Jess pulling sumo.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of cool to see her pull sumo. She had the fourth best deadlift, pulling 240 kilos. I'm presumably that was a sumo PB for her, but really just cool to see Jess compete. Absolutely love her style, love her moxie. She placed fifth. I know that she was probably hopeful of making the podium. And so that was kind of the lay of the land for me. Christine Thorisdottir placing sixth. I think she's a TSG client. She had a really good day, 9 for 9, just out of the top 5 there. But that's kind of the way that I saw the 84s. And again, just thrilled for Ziana and really happy for her.
Eric?
I got things to say. Okay. So, I won't just start with Jess so that I can give a less biased perspective.
Okay.
So the first thing I will say is that 2nd through 7th were all over 30, with Kristen Thorisdottir, who you mentioned, being over 40. Ziana's 28.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see she might start separating herself from the pack. This is a great sign, I think, of what's to come, and very impressive performance. I also think that it might feel like Amanda, like, oh, I'm going to take this year off and I'll come back. And she's like, where the hell did all you people come from? Because we're in a position now where, okay, Nicolette Ziegler, just to be clear, that 237 deadlift, the only one she walked away with, is 17 less than she's done in competition, and is actually, I think, 32 less than she's attempted in competition. She did try for a 269.5, I want to say, at nationals, and she did total 600 at nationals, to your point, Ryan. So there is absolutely a world where it's not just one person totaling over 600, like we saw previously, Amanda Lawrence in most championship events, where she comes back and we have a Ziana on the rise, Carlina coming back and truly filling out the weight class into her true form. And you've got two people who are right there on the heels of Amanda Lawrence. And then you've got people maybe off the podium who are actually capable of 600 and up. So you can't make mistakes. Second thing I will say is, Jess Bittner, from what I could tell, got called on an elbow depth rule, which is physically impossible. Like she could not break that bench press rule with a close grip if she wanted to, and her feet up. Okay. And that is quite frustrating, because the 115 that she legitimately should have got, if that was the only infraction, unless I'm missing something, would have been a PB, just like her squat was a PB. And it would have set her up to only have to pull 250, not 252, which would have actually enabled her, maybe, based upon what she's pulled in the past, to actually pull onto the podium. So her attempt at 252 would have tied Nicolette Ziegler, who was having a rough day on deadlifts, and beat her on body weight, and actually got her onto the podium in the 84s. And it could have been a story similar to Evie Corrigan. But it does seem like Jess is maybe still battling a bit of a recurring lower back injury that she has. We did experiment a bit with sumo. She's actually similar strength to both. And one of the reasons we thought about it is that sometimes, if for people who experience a lot of lingering fatigue or recurrent injuries from conventional pulling, if they're even similar in strength, you might end up getting a net benefit from going sumo, just because it seems like the stress on the lumbar is a little bit lower over time. That's what I did with Bryce back in the day when he could have switch hit. We stuck with it because he could, sustain more training volume, frequency, and load. And eventually that's what got him from being a 700 conventional puller to a 800-pound sumo puller. But nonetheless, I was disappointed in that bench press call for Jess, because it could have been the difference between her pulling slightly less and maybe getting a podium spot in 84s.
Okay. So I got a couple items I could bring up here. I talked to Jess, and she just switched like 6 weeks out-ish to sumo, like really switched. Like I'm like a full-throated, and she told me, Ryan, it's finally started clicking like just before Worlds, where I'm like, holy, she tried on the platform switching to sumo and bombed, if you guys remember, at SBD Houston a couple years back. This is the first time where she's like, I think I got it. Like I generally, she's very excited. She thinks, I think I'm going to deadlift what I did and more now. So let's see what the future holds for Jess. Squat PBs, should be a bench PB. And if her deadlift returns and actually accelerates to an 84 as a sumo puller, and she thinks she can, like you should see how excited she is, like a kid with a new toy. Let's see what happens to her. In terms of Ziana, I was talking to her. She actually thought she was going to be posting up a bigger total. This turnaround, just like Rondell, that hampered Rondell, she also, the exact same session as Rondell, by the way, she also said, whew, little quicker turnaround. This was, the bigger the people, the more the weight, the more it impacts them. And she said, that definitely hampered me a little bit. They thought, now obviously she had enough to win, but I think if it was a bigger flight and a few things go her way, 620 to maybe 630-ish, I don't know, maybe late 620s. And by Sheffield, definitely going to be entering into the 630s. And by next year's Worlds, if you tell me, so she's on any given day, around 630 right now. If by next year's Worlds, could she be 640? Yes. She could be in the 640s. She thought she'd be in the 630s now, and maybe under Sheffield conditions where they make these big flights and do everything they can to make sure you hit all these PRs, we'll probably see her into the 630s. Carlina, we already know 628. You telling me move up? She can't sort these out, find the new leverages, hit depth, and end up 640s. Yes, I believe you can. Now that's two ladies in the 640s. When Amanda Lawrence returns, she has won Worlds with 627. She's won Worlds within the 630s. She's won with 642. These ladies are batting around 640. Amanda Lawrence comes back. She's got a fight on her hands. I'm telling you, she's got a fight on her hands. Yesterday's price isn't today's price. And Nicolette Ziegler, who I read her post earlier, very mature as an athlete, said, you know what, my total came down, but this might be, and I'm paraphrasing, my best performance, my most proudest performance, something along those lines. Because that's the way it goes. It's the World Championships. Throw out previously what you did. You took a bronze medal in your first Worlds. And like, God bless. I mean, it's the stress and everything. And this is a different 84 kilo class. And to your point, Eric, if her deadlift returns to form and then better than that, she's hitting what she had previously missed, throw those kilos onto her. She's also in the 620s. God bless, by next year, who knows where she might be. This is a different, 84s are moving different. 84s are moving different. And so Amanda Lawrence stepped away and she's watching from the sidelines. By the time I posed to you, by the time Amanda Lawrence steps back in, Amanda, you're not going to win with 627.5 anymore, and you're not going to win in the 630s anymore. You got to be in the 640s. I think Amanda can. Obviously, she has. You might even, I don't even know where in the 640s is going to win. You might not win with 642.5 anymore either, depending on by the time you get back. This is a good thing. And this is a good thing. And Amanda should be happy for that. I bet you she is, because she's a lion herself. And she's coming to do battle. We all know she will. So next year's Worlds, all eyes on the 84 kilo class and where the hell this might be. It's been a long time coming. But I think Sheffield will be a bit of an indication where we really are at in 2026 with Ziana. And then we'll tack on however many months it is from November to June. 8 months later, God bless where she might take us. All right. Let's talk about the 84 pluses, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. And the rivalry continues between Britt and Sunita. Sunita off to an absolutely flying start, breaking the world record in her second attempt. Third attempt, put it up to 334.5. Now that's gutsy. On the flip side, though, we all seen her do 340. She doesn't have to, obviously, it's the plus. There's no cutting. She's European, the travel and the time zones. It's not all that, isn't that crazy. And it is still a decent chunk under 340, 334.5. I think they thought we're going to need these kilos. I understand about breaking world records on second attempts, what we said earlier. And if you gentlemen disagree, I'm okay with that. But I do think 2020 hindsight, I think they felt pressure like we need to go big. If we're going to beat Britt, And Britt keeps leveling up time after time, and let Britt level up yet a freaking again this Worlds. I think they're thinking, look, this is below what we've done in the gym, but it still should be on the table. I think we could do this. It's not about world records. It's about winning for them. Let's go for this. So they did. And missed their third squat. Britt going 3 for 3 with 302.5. And then the battle ensues. Britt goes 3 for 3 in bench. Sunita goes 3 for 3 in bench. And then disaster strikes. Britt obviously ending off with a world record pull and absolutely sensational performance. 756.5 world champion. How many world championships has she won in the 84 pluses now? How many battles has she had? 4. Thank you, Matt. Battle tested, battle hardened. She said this might be one of my favorite victories because she's overcome so much self-doubt, etc., and the pressure and whatnot, and took an L against Sunita earlier this year. So this was a revenge match between her and Sunita. It feels like they're always going back and forth, these two. But disaster struck for Sunita in the deadlifts. They opened with 260, missed, opt to go up anyways to 272.5. Now, on the broadcast, this is where I had said, if it's all in, all or nothing, if I'm not going to be world champion, I'd rather bomb out. If that's the actual conversation, then fine, because you can only take so big a jump from your opener to your third. If you think you need a big third. If you're like, I can't take a huge jump. If you were literally like, it's either I'm a world champ or not. I've already won world titles, already broken world records. I'm all in. All right. And Eric, it looks like you give me what you're thinking, Eric. Hit me on the spot.
Yeah. So even if that is like, I want to go for broke, you don't need to do that on your opener. Right. And I think let's think about what 260 really means for Sunita here.
Yeah.
Like that was what she finished with at 2025 Sheffield. And this is what she opened with it. This is the heaviest opener she's ever done. And I think, you mentioned maybe she felt that pressure and she's got to get to many kilos in total based upon her, relatively aggressive third squat attempt. I think the clearest indicator that they felt that was the deadlift opener decision, which, deadlifts are hit and miss once you start getting into that 260 or higher range for Sunita. Whether that's size, grip, just like she's clearly got the strength, but that lockout's tough. And I just don't think there is ever a world where opening on 260, that's not true. Currently with Sunita's strength levels, I don't think 260 is an appropriate deadlift opener. And I really struggled to understand that decision, even if the conversation was, let's go for broke. Like, you dial it back just a little bit and then there is a chance, but I think that is a huge gamble. I didn't think the squat attempt was that unreasonable personally. I mean, I might've been a little more conservative, but I thought the deadlift opener was the one that made the least amount of that. I personally was like, really? They're opening with 260? Like that to me seemed, like a bad call. And I hate to say that and I don't want to pile on, but it's just like, because I hated to see Sunita bomb out. I want to be clear. And I wanted to see an epic battle and I wanted her to be at her best. So but I don't think that rationale justifies the opener, frankly.
To your point, the heaviest deadlift opener she ever had previously was 250, leaving Sheffield with 275. So the difference between 260 and 275 is 15 kilos over the course of 3 lifts. Even if they thought her deadlift, she would PB her deadlift, it's not a big gap. You're going to be pulling top end very, very quickly. And of course, her biggest deadlift ever is 275. So for her second attempt to load up 272.5, I think I was saying all this on the stream, but you're within 2.5 kilos on your second attempt, but you don't have an opener in the tank yet. Now, on only that, in terms of if you're just keeping pace, blah, 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 you don't have an opener yet, that's a different discussion. But on terms of the weight of the opener, it was the biggest deadlift opener we've seen by her by 10 kilos, and we already seen her lift a couple times this year. So it wasn't like, well, yeah, we haven't seen her in a while. We've seen her. So that means your confidence levels in deadlift progression, and it better be deadlift progression data points on an SBD day, because if it's just, well, deadlifts in prep on deadlift day when you didn't already squat the world record and bench press or whatever, you better take these data points with a grain of salt, because my goodness, it's 15 kilos below her personal best, and it's your opener. So to your point, yeah, I will agree. The deadlift opener is started too heavy. After that, in terms of like, all right, we already backed ourselves into the wall here, the corner, so to speak. What do you want to do? Because it is what it is. Now you're already kind of chasing bad money. So you're just like, look, if we're going to try to win this, we're going to try to win this. Do you give a shit? And it's not, whatever. Matt, you're the handling guru. We don't have to make it all about the handling, though. You can also talk about Britt and the whole 84 pluses.
Yeah, I'll just back up a little bit. So I don't think, I mean, Sonita, you're asking her to take 3 squats at 300 plus, and that's a big ask. That's a really big ask. I think it's a big ask also from a mental standpoint. And so clearly she's got the capability. We saw it in training, and she doesn't have to cut and doesn't have to worry about body weight. She's got short travel. Clearly we knew she had the aptitude to squat more. I think also one thing I will add, if I'm not mistaken, I think on her 3rd squat, the weights, the discs actually hit the spotter loader in the thigh. I think one of the spotter loaders might have been a little bit too close for comfort. And so I think she was saying that if you watch back the live stream, and I haven't watched it back, I think the spotter loader, quote unquote, interfered. So she got to a point where she kind of hit what she thought was the hole, but ran into the actual spotter, and that threw her off. But anyway, in terms of the attempts for the squats, I just think that you'd be wise opening just a stitch lighter, not necessarily going for the world record on your second one. And then that opens up some space, just, gives you the opportunity to go a little bit higher in the 3rd. But anyway, still getting the chip on the 2nd squat, benched very well, benched 162.5, which was a PB for her. That was to the tune of 5 kilos. That's 5 kilos more than she's ever benched. And at that point, if I've done the math correctly, you have a 16.5 kilo lead at the subtotal. And so you're as a game day coach, you're taking inventory at the subtotal, and you're looking at the standings. Where am I? And more importantly, where am I going to be after my opening deadlift? And so, the opener is the heaviest opener that we've ever seen her attempt. And I think we ran into kind of the same issue last year at the World Championships in Germany, where, if I'm not mistaken, where Sonita only made her opener and then missed the 2nd and the 3rd. I think missed the 2nd on technicality, and then the 3rd one, I think she ran out of gas and missed on strength, if I'm not mistaken. But as we see the supers, I mean, I've dealt with the same issue with Ray Williams. As the body weight climbs and improves the leverages in the squat, it has an adverse reaction, or the opposite reaction, in the deadlift, and it makes it harder. And so the lifters have to, change their form, change their execution, change their technique a little bit. And so we saw Sonita struggle last year in Germany, and then we saw her right the ship to the tune of, I mean, she missed her final deadlift in China at the World Games, but made every other deadlift. And so thought she had it sorted, but then runs back into this problem again. So I don't know what's going on, but clearly too heavy of an opener. I would have repeated the opener personally. That would have been my strategy. I think the deadlift is the one lift where if you miss it, given the stakes, you go ahead and repeat it, get one on the board to essentially ensure a podium spot, and then you just watch the scoreboard, make your move, and take what you need, rather than saying, screw it, pushing all my chips to the center of the table. But look, those are discussions that her and her coaching staff and her team clearly had, and she may have been, to your point, Ryan, screw it, I'm going all in, I'm throwing it all in at once. Personally, that's not the approach that I would take. We saw Bonica do that in Malta, and of course it backfired and she bombed, and we talked about that on the previous show, and to Bonica's credit, she hasn't missed a deadlift since. But anyway, so enough on that, not going to beat a dead horse. It was just sad to see, because Sunita is one of these tip of the spear athletes, is clearly in the conversation, clearly, a front runner to her and Britt to win this thing and to kind of ping pong back and forth the world championships. But hey, all credit to Brittany Schlater. Once again, plays the game beautifully, goes 8 for 9, just masterful. Takes the world record deadlift on her second attempt. And then, of course, Quinn Onoa takes it back on her third. And so cool for us, her team GB. I mean, look, Sunita's demise was our reward and our gain, if you will, because it removes Sunita from the equation. And we were able to take second and third position when presumably at the front end of this, we're thinking, we're kind of probably looking at third and fourth if this plays out the way we think it's going to play out. But hey, it's sports. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, and anything literally did happen. So Quinn and Toyosi, just phenomenal competitors. Quinn, I mean, I can't say enough good things about her. She's coached by Peach, has her signature performance, 9 for 9, PBs in every single discipline. And then, oh, by the way, loads up for a world record. She added, I think, 28.5 kilos on her total since the British. So she and Peach.
It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. And the fact that, I mean, look, she had it to 28 kilos or 28.5 kilos since the British. Pulls an IPF world record.
292, dude. It's crazy how strong she is.
It's mental. And it wasn't a limit lift, and so looking at her with Natalie Lalai, out of the equation. I mean, rumor has it that she's coming back. I don't know the exact word on the street, but I don't think it's a permanent retirement. I think it is a temporary one. But look, Quinn's going to probably be the first woman to pull 300 kilos. I mean, drug tested in the IPF. I mean, she's right there, right? And so an exquisite performance for her. She comes in second. And then, Toyosi Amatoso, who's coached by Christian Iandokan, has a phenomenal performance in her own right, only missing her second squat on a technicality, so they went ahead and repeated it. But she had enough gas in the tank to fend off the charge from Bonica Brown. That was kind of how we thought it was going to play out. We knew that it would be tight, but Toyosi would have the upper hand in the deadlift, and so she took what she needed. Bonica actually missing. Now she actually did miss a final deadlift at 237.5. But again, it was enough to place the two Brits in second and third, and that was pretty much the competition as I saw it. The only other person of note, Amélie Mergier from France, big bencher, held the world record at one time. As I said on the preview podcast, her body weight's come down, and as her body weight has come down, now that's taken a little bit off of her bench. I was surprised, a little bit surprised, but then again, knowing Garrett Bentley and the conservative nature of that coaching staff, and I mean that as a compliment, not as a criticism. Brittany, I mean, she's right there. She's knocking on the door of being able to take a shot at this world record bench press. And I think, look, Sheffield is a place to do that, right? At World Championships, we need to acquire and secure kilos. It's not about taking a bench world record at the World Championships. And so I think Sheffield will line up nicely for her to do that. But hats off to Brittany. She is the woman of the hour. She also, by the way, got the best lifter award to the tune of 127.98 GL points. So just ecstatic for her. This is her 4th IPF World Championships. Doesn't get the credit that she deserves. But she is an executioner because that lady makes a ton of lifts. And if you're going to beat her, you're going to have to come in with both barrels loaded and make all 9 attempts yourself. But yeah, that was kind of how I saw the 84 pluses unfold.
Yeah, excellent recap. I just wanted to add 2 minor things. I think earlier I mentioned that Tiffany Chapone won best lifter. She did not. Brittany did. Yeah, and I think the IPF. Like if you go to the IPF website, their results for some reason don't have the 84s or 84 pluses on there, which is probably why the spreadsheet shows it that way.
Okay.
But I think going back to my point of if those 20 keys had been added to Alba's bench, I think she still would have won best lifter over Brittany. But anyway, I didn't want to take away from Brittany, and it is always something incredible when the super heavyweight category wins best lifter, because that means they are truly phenomenal given the body weight is unlimited. So that's one thing I will say. The other thing I want to say is that the number that Brittany loaded but did not take on her third deadlift had some meaning.
Yeah.
That would have given her the highest total, even among the non-tested women in the world. I think that would have put her at 759 or something like that, which I think would have been, yeah. So she's saying, hey, watch out. I'm going to be pulling a Jesus at Sheffield next time, which I think will be quite cool. So
only time will tell. Sheffield, I'm already freaking super amped up. Some of the showdowns we could possibly have, only time will tell, and some of the possible performances, all-time world records, history to be made. Let's freaking put a pin in that and we'll see. Gentlemen, thank you for joining. My goodness, this was a long one. All right, I spent the whole freaking evening talking to you bozos. But thank you guys. You guys are my A team. I hope I see you guys both super duper soon. Matt, I'm assuming you'll be at Sheffield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Eric? No?
Not going to be at Sheffield unless
Okay.
Yeah, somebody gets an invite who you wouldn't expect. So, yeah.
Unless you get an invite. Yeah. And you're like, well, all right. I guess my bodybuilding qualified me somehow. Here we go. All right, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
An opposing suit, but yeah.
It's been a blast. You guys did an absolutely phenomenal job. Much appreciated. And for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, 6-pack Lapadat. 6 up, and we are out.